The jungle was alive with sounds that did not belong to Earth. Leaves shook in the wind. Glowing insects drifted in the shadows, and far above, alien birds screeched as if warning of a storm. The human warrior, Eric, moved carefully, his boots sinking into damp soil. His mission was simple: survive, find the enemy, and return with proof of their presence. Yet nothing about this planet felt simple. Every step reminded him that he did not belong here, and still he pressed on, weapon tight in his grip, eyes sharp as a blade. He could feel unseen eyes following him, waiting to see if he would falter. He had not been sent alone. The war had begun months earlier when humans first clashed with the alien clans of this world. Their ships cut through Earth's defenses, their warriors struck like shadows, and countless battles ended with human losses. But Eric was different. He was a survivor of 10 campaigns, a fighter known for refusing to yield. His commanders had called him reckless. His enemies had called him cursed. He only knew one truth. He was still alive, and that meant something in a galaxy that wanted him dead. As he walked deeper into the jungle, he thought of his people, waiting for hope where there was none. The air grew heavier. A strange hum ran through the ground, vibrating his bones. Eric slowed, scanning the shadows, and then he saw her. She stood tall among the trees, her skin dark and smooth with faint lines of glowing blue running across her arms. Her eyes burned with a fire that made the night itself tremble. She carried no shield, no armor, yet her presence filled the clearing like a storm. The alien girl was young, fierce, and impossibly beautiful. She looked like both predator and goddess, and when she stepped forward, her voice cut the silence like a blade. "Human," she said, as if the word itself was dangerous. Eric raised his weapon, ready to strike if needed. But she did not attack. Instead, she drew closer, her movements graceful, her gaze never leaving his. Something about her steps unsettled him. Warriors always carried tension, but she walked as if the ground bent to her will. She stopped only a few feet away and tilted her head, studying him as though deciding if he was prey or something more. Then, with sudden speed, she lunged. Before Eric could react, her hand gripped his arm, her nails biting into his skin. Her lips parted, sharp teeth glinting, and she sank them against his flesh. Pain shot through him, hot and fierce, but he did not scream. Instead, he stared into her eyes, unflinching. Blood touched her tongue, and everything around them shifted. The jungle's sounds faded, replaced by the thundering of her heart. Her body trembled as if struck by lightning. She pulled back, staring at him with wide, unblinking eyes. Her voice shook, no longer steady and proud, but filled with something deeper, something fragile. "Your blood," she whispered, her tone almost broken. "You're my destiny, human." Her words were not those of an enemy, but of someone who had just uncovered a terrible truth. Eric froze, his mind racing. Destiny? The word carried weight, binding, and he saw no lies in her gaze. The alien girl stepped back as if frightened of her own voice. She looked at her hands, at the faint glow spreading from where she had touched him. Her clan had told her humans were weak, fragile, unworthy of their world. But the taste of his blood burned inside her like fire, rewriting every truth she had known. Her people had legends, stories of fate sealed by blood, stories that bound souls together in ways no blade could sever. She had laughed at those tales. Now she was living one. She clenched her fists, anger mixing with fear, because she understood what it meant. She was tied to him, and nothing could break that chain. Eric did not lower his weapon. His arm still burned, blood sliding down his skin, but his mind worked faster than the pain. He had fought monsters before, but this was no ordinary battle. He had seen warriors kneel after defeat, yet this girl had not been defeated. She had bound herself to him by choice or perhaps by fate. He saw her breathing hard, her eyes full of storm and sorrow, and for the first time, he hesitated. He could kill her, end this strange moment, return to his people with proof of victory. But something in her voice held him still. Something in her trembling words echoed louder than the war outside. She had called him destiny, and he could not yet understand why. The jungle shifted again, the wind carrying new sounds. More footsteps. Approached, heavier, sharper, and Eric realized they were no longer alone. The alien girl turned her head, her face hardening as voices called her name from the trees. Warriors were coming, and if they saw her weaken before a human, neither of them would leave alive. She glanced at Eric once more, her eyes full of fire and fear, and whispered only one word, almost too soft to hear. Run, but Eric did not move. The war had just changed, and he knew he could not turn his back now. The sound of approaching warriors grew louder, echoing through the jungle as branches cracked and armor shifted. Eric's instincts told him to fight, to raise his weapon and stand his ground, but something in the alien girl's trembling voice lingered in his mind. She had told him to run, yet she remained rooted to the spot, torn between the weight of her clan's laws and the new bond she had unwillingly forged. He could see it in her eyes. She was as afraid of what had just happened as she was of the warriors coming closer. His grip tightened on his weapon, and he knew the choice he made now would shape everything that followed. The first alien warrior burst into the clearing, tall and armored, carrying a blade that shimmered with unnatural fire. More followed, their faces cold, their steps heavy, circling like predators ready to strike. They froze when they saw the girl standing so close to the human. For a moment, silence held the clearing, and then one of them hissed in fury, pointing at Eric. You dare let him breathe in our sacred ground? His voice was venom, sharp enough to cut the air. The girl did not answer. She only glanced at Eric, her jaw tight, her hands trembling, as if fighting to find words she could not speak. Eric knew he was outnumbered. 5 warriors, each stronger than most men, surrounded him, yet he had faced worse odds before. He shifted, his stance, every muscle ready, waiting for the first strike. But what happened next caught even him by surprise. The alien girl stepped forward, her arms stretched wide, standing between him and her people. He is under my protection, she said, her voice breaking the silence. The warriors halted, their eyes widening as if she had spoken something forbidden. One of them snarled, "Do you even know what you are saying?" She did not flinch, her voice steadied. "I have tasted his blood. The bond is sealed. He is my destiny." Her words hung heavy, like chains wrapping around them all. Eric felt the weight of her declaration. He had not asked for this bond, had not understood it, but now it was clear that it meant more than just words. The warriors shifted uneasily, muttering among themselves. Bonds were sacred, older than war, older than kings. To break one was to break their very laws. Eric saw the fury in their eyes, the hesitation in their stance, and realized something rare fear. They feared what this meant for their clan, for their people, and for her. The leader stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. "If this is true, then you have betrayed us. You stand with the enemy. And for that, you will pay." He raised his blade, ready to strike, not at Eric, but at her. Eric moved before he even thought. His weapon clashed against the glowing blade, sparks flying as the force sent a shock through his arm. The leader snarled, pressing harder, but Eric held firm, his eyes locked on the aliens. "If you want her, you'll go through me," he said, his voice low, steady. The other warriors growled, their weapons lifting, and in that instant, the jungle erupted with violence. Steel and fire clashed in the shadows, the ground shaking beneath their fury. Eric fought like a man possessed, his strikes precise, his movements honed from years of survival. The alien girl stood frozen at first, torn by her heart and her duty, until she finally stepped forward, summoning a weapon of her own, its glow fierce in her hands. Together, they fought. Eric's speed and human cunning cut through their ranks. while the girl's strength and agility turned the battle into chaos. Every strike echoed through the forest, every clash of blades a song of defiance. Blood spilled, voices screamed, and the ground burned where their weapons struck. The warriors faltered, their unity breaking under the weight of the bond they could not deny. The leader fell to his knees, defeated, his blade shattered, his chest heaving with rage and shame. Eric stood above him, his weapon raised for the final blow. But once again, it was the girl who stopped him, her hand on his arm, her voice firm. "No, killing him will only bring more war. Spare him, and you prove strength greater than their hate." Eric hesitated, then slowly lowered his blade. The surviving warriors dragged their leader back, their eyes burning with anger but also fear. They would return, Eric knew, and when they did, the real war would begin. But for now, the clearing belonged to him and the girl. She looked at him, with eyes full of fire and sorrow, her voice heavy with truth. "You don't understand what has happened, human. My people will hunt us both now. They will never forgive this bond." Eric wiped the blood from his weapon, his chest rising with each breath, and finally met her gaze. "Then we'll face them together." His words were simple, but they struck her deeper than any blade. She had expected rejection, fear, or even anger. Instead, he had chosen to stand with her. And that changed everything. The jungle fell quiet once more, shadows wrapping around them like secrets waiting to be told. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against his, her eyes filled with conflict. She had sworn to kill him when she first saw him, yet now she stood beside him, bound by fate and blood. For the first time, she whispered her name, soft and hesitant, as if giving him a piece of her soul. "I am Solari." Eric nodded, his voice calm but certain. "Then Solari, we're not enemies anymore." She did not reply, but her heart thundered inside her chest because deep down, she knew his words were true. And she also knew the world would never allow it. Night fell heavy over the jungle. The air cooled, but the silence felt unnatural, as if the trees themselves were listening. Eric and Solari moved quietly through the undergrowth, their footsteps careful, their weapons never far from reach. After the battle, they knew the warriors who fled would return with more. The bond between them had been declared, and neither side of the war would ignore it. Solari's people would see her as a traitor. Eric's commanders would see him as compromised, yet neither turned away. They walked together, side by side, carrying the weight of something neither had chosen but both now shared. Solari led him deeper into the wild, away from paths her clan would expect. Her glowing markings faintly lit the darkness, guiding their way. Eric watched her closely, not just her movements but her silence. She walked with her shoulders straight, her chin high, yet he saw the storm inside her. Every time she touched her lips, as if remembering the taste of his blood, her steps faltered. She was strong, a warrior raised for battle, but this bond was not training. It was truth written in her very veins. Finally, unable to hold back, Eric spoke. "You said destiny. What does it mean?" His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with the need to know. Solari stopped, her breath visible in the cool night air. She turned slowly, her glowing eyes locking on his. "Among my people, there are ancient laws. When blood is tasted, when a bond is formed, it cannot be undone. It is more than life, more than war. It is fate. My soul is tied to yours, human. If you live, I live. If you fall, I fall." Her voice carried no lies, only pain. Eric listened, his jaw tight, his hand tightening around the strap of his weapon. He had never believed in destiny. He believed in survival, in fighting for the moment at hand. But now he felt the weight of her words pressing down, heavier than the armor he wore. For a long moment, neither spoke. The jungle hummed, creatures shifting in the shadows. Then Solari turned away, her tone bitter. "You don't understand, Eric. This bond will destroy us. My clan will hunt me until I am ashes. Your commanders will never trust you again. 2. Them, we are both traitors. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. I should kill you now, before it's too late. Her words were sharp, but her voice trembled, betraying the truth she could not face. Eric stepped closer, his eyes steady, his voice low. If you were going to kill me, you would have done it already. Something inside you won't let you. You know it as much as I do. Solari looked at him, her chest rising and falling, and in her silence, she admitted he was right. They kept moving, but danger followed. At dawn, the jungle roared awake, and the sounds of hunting horns echoed across the trees. Solari froze, her body stiff, her eyes narrowing. They are close. 2. Close. She grabbed Eric's hand without thinking, pulling him down a slope into the cover of thick ferns. Warriors moved above, their blades flashing in the morning light, their voices sharp and angry. Eric pressed close to the ground, his heart steady, while Solari whispered, "They will not stop until they have me. They will not stop until they have you. The bond is a curse to them." Eric studied her face, seeing fear she tried to hide. "Then let them come," he whispered back. "I've fought worse odds." She wanted to believe his words, but in her heart, she knew these hunters would not fight fair. Hours passed with no rest. Hunger gnawed at Eric, but he pushed it aside. Solari guided him to a hidden stream, where they drank quickly before moving again. Her steps grew heavier, the weight of betrayal pressing down. Finally, she stopped in a small clearing where the sun broke through the canopy. She dropped to her knees, her hands pressed against the soil, her voice breaking. "I was meant to lead my clan one day. They called me chosen. They said I was strong enough to protect them. Now I am nothing. Less than nothing." Eric watched her shoulders tremble, watched the tears she tried to hide. He stepped forward, kneeling beside her, his voice steady. "You are not nothing. You stood against 5 warriors. You chose your own path. That takes more strength than following orders." His words cut through her despair, but they also lit something new inside her. Solari lifted her head, her glowing eyes filled with conflict. "Why do you care, human? You owe me nothing. I am the enemy that was sent to kill you." Eric met her gaze without hesitation. "Maybe, but now we are bound, and if destiny tied us together, then I won't walk away." She studied his face, the scars, the hardened jaw, the fire in his eyes. He was unlike anyone she had known, unyielding, stubborn, yet carrying a strange honor she could not deny. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar, hope. And that hope frightened her more than any blade. Before she could answer, the ground shook. The air filled with a strange vibration, a deep hum that made their bones rattle. Both turned sharply, weapons raised, as the trees ahead split apart. Massive figures emerged, clad in dark armor, unlike any warrior before. These were not hunters. They were enforcers, executioners of her clan's law. Solari's heart froze. "They've sent the Shadow Guard," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They will kill us both." Eric lifted his weapon, his eyes narrowing, his body ready. "Then we fight." The bond between them was no longer just blood, it was survival. And neither of them would face it alone. The Shadow Guard advanced. With heavy steps, their armor black as stone, their eyes hidden behind glowing visors. Each carried a long blade that hummed with deadly energy. They were larger than the hunters, stronger than the warriors Eric had faced before. Solari's breath caught in her throat as she gripped her weapon. These were not soldiers who could be reasoned with. They were executioners, bound to the ancient law of her people. Their presence meant her clan had already declared her fate death. For betrayal and death for the human she was bound to. Eric saw the fear in her eyes, but he also saw her refusal to step back. She was ready to fight even if it meant dying at his side. The leader of the guard raised his weapon, his voice echoing across the clearing like thunder. Solari, daughter of the clans, you have broken sacred law. You stand with prey. You will be erased, and the human with you." His words cut sharp, and Solari flinched, but she did not retreat. She raised her blade high, her voice steady though her heart pounded. "Then erase me. But know this, the bond is sealed. Kill him, and you kill me. Strike me, and you strike him." For a moment, even the Shadow Guard hesitated. Bonds were not simple matters, but their oath was stronger than hesitation. They marched forward, blades lifted, ready to kill both of them without mercy. Eric moved first. He hurled himself at the nearest guard, his blade sparking as it clashed against dark metal. The force nearly crushed his arm, but he held steady, his body braced with years of war. He ducked low, striking hard at the guard's leg, and sparks flew as the armored figure staggered back. Another came from the side, swinging down with a killing blow, but Solari leapt between them, her weapon glowing as she blocked the strike. Her markings lit brighter, her strength pulsing through the Tico. Bond. She struck back with speed that startled even the Shadow Guard, her blade cutting through armor that was said to be unbreakable. Eric saw it then. The bond was more than fate. It was power, flowing between them, turning their fight into something greater than either alone. The battle raged, each strike shaking the ground. Eric and Solari fought as one, their movements blending, their eyes always watching for the other. When Eric stumbled, Solari pulled him back to his feet. When Solari faltered under a heavy blow, Eric's weapon cut the attacker down before it could land. The Shadow Guard were relentless, their numbers pressing harder, their blades screaming with energy. But the bond gave Eric strength beyond his limits, and Solari speed beyond her training. They bled, they gasped for air, but they did not fall. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath as the fight dragged on, the clash of destiny against law echoing into the night. One by one, the Shadow Guard began to falter. Their armor cracked, their weapons broke, until only the leader remained. He stood tall, his visor cracked, his blade burning like fire. He looked at them not with rage, but with disbelief. "This is impossible. No bond between species can survive. The laws forbid it. The stars forbid it." Solari stepped forward, her chest heaving, her markings glowing like fire across her skin. "Then the stars are wrong. The law is broken. He is my destiny, and no blade can cut it apart." Her words carried into the night, stronger than any weapon. The leader roared in fury and charged, his blade aimed at her heart. But Eric moved faster. He caught the blow with both hands, his own weapon locking it in place. The power of the strike pushed him back, his boots carving lines into the soil, but he did not yield. Solari leapt, her blade striking true, and the leader fell at last. Silence returned. The Shadow Guard lay defeated, their black armor shattered, their bodies still. Eric dropped to one knee, his chest burning, his body trembling with exhaustion. Solari rushed to him, her hand on his shoulder, her voice soft. "You should not have survived this. No human could stand against them." Eric lifted his head, his eyes steady even through the pain. "Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was us." She looked at him, her throat tightening, because she knew he was right. The bond had turned them into something their world had never seen. And that truth terrified her as much as it gave her hope. They could not stay. More would come, and they clan would not rest until their law was satisfied. Solari helped him to his feet, her arm around his shoulder, her voice low but firm. "There is one place we can go, a place my people fear. The ruins of the first clan. No one dares enter, not even the Shadow Guard. If we reach it, we may survive long enough to decide what to do." Eric nodded, his body aching, but his spirit unbroken. "Them lead the way. If fate wants us dead, it will have to work harder." His words made her laugh softly, the first laugh she had felt in months. For the first time, hope flickered between them. As they walked into the shadows of the jungle, leaving the broken guard behind, the bond pulsed stronger. Solari felt it in every step, in every breath. This human had changed everything. He was not prey. He was not enemy. He was her destiny. And as much as she feared it, she also longed for what it meant. The path ahead was uncertain, full of danger and betrayal. But when she looked at Eric walking beside her, his eyes sharp and unyielding, she knew she would face it all. Not as warrior against warrior, but as something far greater. Together, the ruins of the first clan rose from the jungle. Like broken teeth of stone. Ancient towers leaned against each other, cracked and swallowed by vines glowing faintly in the moonlight. Strange symbols covered the walls, their lines pulsing faint blue as if alive. Eric paused at the edge of the clearing, his hand on his weapon, his breath steady but heavy from the long journey. He had seen ruins before on battlefields, but nothing like this. These stones did not belong to time. They felt older, heavier, as if they carried memories too great for the earth to hold. Beside him, Solari's steps slowed. Her eyes glowed faintly, her markings burning brighter the closer she came. She whispered, almost to herself, "The first clan watches still." Her voice trembled, for even she feared this place. They entered, cautiously, moving between broken walls and fallen pillars. The air grew colder, heavier, as if pressing down on their chests. Eric's instincts screamed of danger, yet the silence was different here. No birds sang, no insects stirred. Even the jungle dared not breathe inside the ruins. Solari walked ahead, her fingers brushing the symbols carved deep into the stone. The lines flared at her touch, glowing brighter, spreading outward like veins of fire. Eric raised his weapon, wary, but she shook her head. "It is not danger," she said. "It is recognition. The ruins know the bond." Her words made his heart tighten, because every step proved what he wanted to deny. This was no accident. What had happened between them was written long before either had been born. They reached the heart of the ruins, where a vast circle of stone lay open to the sky. Broken statues ringed the space, tall figures with faces worn away by time. At the center stood an altar, its surface smooth, its edges glowing faintly. Solari stopped before it, her body trembling, her voice hushed. "Here is where the first clan made their vows. Here is where they sealed their bonds in blood." She turned to Eric, her eyes bright with both fear and awe. "Do you understand? The law my people follow was born here. But it was never meant to forbid. It was meant to guide." The first clan believed bonds were the heart of strength. Somewhere in time, the truth was twisted into chains. Her words shook him, but they also lit a spark of anger in his chest. Eric stepped closer to the altar, running his hand over the cold stone. He could feel the pulse beneath it, like a heartbeat that was not his own. His voice was calm but firm. "Then if this place gave birth to their law, maybe it can break it." Solari's breath caught, her chest rising quickly. She wanted to deny it, wanted to pull him away, but she could not. The bond inside her burned with the same thought. She touched the stone, and the markings along her arms flared so brightly that the whole chamber filled with light. The statues shook, dust falling from their faces. Eric stepped back, shielding his eyes, but the light did not harm him. Instead, it wrapped around them both, threads of fire binding their hands together. The altar spoke not with words, but with a voice, deep inside their bones. It whispered of destiny, of power, of unity. And then it grew silent, leaving them breathless in the glow. Solari fell to her knees, her hand pressed to her chest, her eyes wide with fear. "It has chosen us," she whispered. "The bond is not only real, it is stronger than I imagined. Strong enough to shake the clans. Strong enough to end the war." Her voice trembled with awe but also despair. "If they learn this truth, they will kill us both to bury it." Eric knelt beside her, his face steady, his voice calm. Then, we don't hide it. We fight with it. If this bond gives us strength, we use it to break the war itself. His words rang with steel, but Solari's heart twisted. She wanted to believe, but she had seen her people's fury. To defy them was to defy centuries of law. And yet when she looked at him, she saw something no one else had ever shown her: unyielding faith. Not in himself, but in her. The ground rumbled suddenly, shaking the ruins. Eric jumped to his feet, weapon raised, as cracks split through the stone circle. Solari gasped, her eyes scanning the shadows. From the broken arches, more figures stepped forth, not shadow guard, not hunters, but elders of the clan. Their robes glowed faintly, their eyes hard as stone. At their center stood the High Seer, her face sharp, her staff burning with blue fire. Her voice echoed across the chamber, cold and final. So it is true, the bond has awakened. You have defiled the sacred altar with human blood. For that, there can be no forgiveness. Her eyes burned into Solari's, filled with fury. You were meant to lead us. Now you lead us to ruin. The elders raised their staffs, the ruins trembling with their power, and Solari's heart sank. Even the first clan's truth would not save them from this. Eric stepped forward, his weapon raised, his voice like iron. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. His words struck the chamber like a challenge, but the seer only laughed, her voice like thunder. Foolish human. You do not understand. This bond is a curse, not a gift. And before this night ends, you will beg for death. The light around the elders flared, and the ruins groaned under their power. Solari grabbed Eric's hand, her eyes full of fire and sorrow. No matter what happens, we stand together. He met her gaze, his grip tightening, his voice firm. Together. The chamber shook as the elders unleashed their power, and the battle for destiny began. The chamber shook as the elders released their power. Blue fire coiled from their staffs, striking the stone with force that made the ruins scream. Eric gritted his teeth, pulling Solari behind a broken pillar as the blast tore through the floor. Dust rained from above, statues cracked, and the glow of the altar flickered like a dying star. The High Seer's voice carried through the chaos, sharp and cold. The bond is a poison. It will break the balance of our world. Better for both of you to die than for such a curse to spread. Her words cut like blades, but Eric felt no fear. He tightened his grip on his weapon, his eyes locked on the enemy before him. I've heard enough, he growled. You want us dead? Come and try. Solari's heart pounded as she rose beside him, her markings blazing brighter than ever. The bond surged within her veins, hot and fierce, pulsing with every breath Eric took. She looked at him, seeing no hesitation, no doubt. His belief in her was like a shield, stronger than any law. She raised her blade, her voice steady. We fight not against fate. We fight for it. If this bond is destiny, then no law can break it. Her words carried across the chamber, shaking even the elders for a moment. The seer's eyes narrowed, and with a furious cry, she hurled another wave of power at them. The blast struck, but instead of tearing them apart, the bond flared to life. Light burst from Eric and Solari, weaving around them like threads of fire, absorbing the attack. The elders staggered back, their eyes wide with shock. Eric felt the strength rush through him faster, stronger, clearer than any battle rage he had known. Every scar, every fight he had ever survived, now burned with purpose. Solari felt it too, her blood singing with energy, her body lighter than air. Together, they stepped forward, their weapons glowing with the same flame that poured from the altar. The battle began in full. Elders struck with storms of fire and blades of light, but Eric's strength and Solari's speed wove through them like one body, one soul. Their blades clashed against staffs, sparks showering the ruins. When Eric's strike faltered, Solari's blow carried through. When Solari stumbled, Eric's arm caught her, steadying her before the next attack fell. The chamber became a storm of light and steel, but neither human nor alien yielded. The bond held them together, unbroken, unstoppable. One elder fell, his staff shattering into ash. Another screamed as Solari's blade carved through her shield. Eric drove his weapon forward, breaking another's defenses, forcing them back. The High Seer fought hardest, her power like a tempest, her staff striking with the force of thunder. Yet even she began to falter as the bond's light pushed against her fury. Her eyes widened, disbelief breaking through her anger. "This is not possible," she gasped. "No human should wield our power. No alien should share their soul with prey." Solari's voice rose above the roar, clear and fierce. "Then open your eyes. We are not prey. We are not enemy. We are destiny." With a final cry, she and Eric struck together. Their blades crossed the seer's staff, shattering it in an explosion of light. The seer fell to her knees, her power gone, her face twisted with rage and sorrow. The ruins grew silent, the glow of the altar fading to a calm pulse. The remaining elders stared at the two figures standing tall, their weapons glowing with fire, their bond blazing for all to see. None dared move forward. None dared strike again. Eric lowered his weapon slowly, his chest heaving, his eyes locked on the defeated seer. "It's over," he said firmly. But the seer shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, it has only begun. The clans will never accept this bond. They will hunt you, no matter where you go. Even your people will not understand." Her words carried truth, and Eric knew it. Yet he also knew something stronger. He turned to Solari, meeting her eyes, his voice steady. "Let them come. We've already shown them what fate can do." Solari's throat tightened. She had lost everything, her clan, her place, her future, as leader. Yet when she looked at Eric, she saw something greater. She saw a path not bound by law, not chained by fear. She saw a new future, one born of choice, not tradition. Her hand found his, her voice soft but strong. "Then we face it together. Always." Eric squeezed her hand, a rare smile breaking through his scars. "Always." The ruins grew still, the altar dimming to silence. But its truth remained. The bond was real, and nothing could erase it. Outside, the jungle whispered with new winds, carrying the echo of a destiny that had just begun. Eric and Solari stepped out into the light of dawn, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as something greater than both. Human and alien, warrior and leader, bound by blood and fate. Together, they would walk into whatever war or peace awaited them. Together, they had become more than law, more than legend. They had become destiny itself.